So, what could possibly connect a Silicon Valley prophet, a psychedelic mystic, and yes, an infamous anti-technology terrorist? It's a really fascinating puzzle that pulls from three completely different worlds. And the answer, well, it reveals something startling about how we imagine the future.
I know, it sounds like the setup to a really strange joke, right? But what's so wild is that all three of these thinkers, coming from totally opposite ends of the spectrum, somehow arrived at startlingly similar visions of where we're all headed. Okay, so let's meet them.
First up, we've got Ray Kurzweil. You can think of him as the house prophet of Silicon Valley. He's a brilliant inventor and futurist, and he's famous for his super optimistic, almost giddy predictions about technology. Then, in a completely different corner, there's Terence McKenna. He was kind of the philosopher-poet of the psychedelic counterculture, an ethnobotanist, a mystic, a guy who spent his life exploring the absolute outer limits of human consciousness. And finally, we have our most controversial figure by far, Ted Kaczynski. A domestic terrorist, yes, but also the author of an anti-technology manifesto that has become, believe it or not, a surprisingly influential text for people who see modern life as a kind of trap.
Let's kick things off with Kurzweil. He sees a future that isn't just a little better than today. No, he's talking about a full-on, ecstatic merger with the very technology we're creating.
He calls this point the singularity, and he's even put a date on it, around 2045. It's this moment where technological change is happening so blindingly fast that our regular, unenhanced human brains, well, we just won't be able to keep up anymore.
Now, for Kurzweil, this isn't some dystopian nightmare. It's the exact opposite. It's the ultimate fulfillment of humanity. He sees technology as a natural extension of our drive to be better, to overcome our limits. The singularity is just the moment we finally achieve escape velocity.
So you might be wondering, how does he think we'll get there? He argues it's not some wild prophecy. It's just a logical extrapolation he calls the law of accelerating returns. The idea is pretty simple, actually. Evolution creates more and more complex things. Each new stage uses the tools of the last stage to speed up the process even more. It's like compound interest for progress, creating this ever-steepening curve.
And the result of all this? It's absolutely mind-boggling. He projects that in the 21st century, we won't see just 100 years of progress. No, we're going to see the equivalent of 20,000 years.
Okay, so now let's shift gears completely and jump into the world of Terence McKenna. He saw a strangely similar endpoint, but from a totally mystical perspective. For him, the future isn't something we're building. It's something that's actively pulling us toward it.
He called it the transcendental object at the end of time. Yeah, it's a mouthful, but think of it less as a destination we're heading to and more like a cosmic drain at the end of history. It's pulling everything in toward this one point of infinite complexity and connection.
And his core analogy for this is just so powerful. For McKenna, history isn't being shoved forward by events in the past. No, it's being pulled from the future by this strange attractor. Just like gravity inevitably pulls a marble to the bottom of a bowl.
And this is where technology comes back into the picture. See, McKenna didn't think the internet or AI were the cause of all this change. He saw them as symptoms, as evidence that this mysterious attractor was getting closer, and that the whole pace of things was accelerating like crazy.
All right, brace yourselves because now we turn to our final and by far the bleakest vision. This is Ted Kaczynski's analysis of what he just called the industrial technological system. His manifesto opens with that pretty stark claim. For Kaczynski, the problem wasn't just that technology could be used to control us. He argued that the system's own internal logic required the complete destruction of human freedom just to keep itself running. He described technology's effect on our freedom as a ratchet. It's a great analogy. Each individual compromise we make, for a little more convenience or safety, it seems small, it seems reasonable. But the ratchet only turns one way. And the cumulative effect is the slow, irreversible march toward losing our own agency. So for Kaczynski, there are only two ways this can end, and both are, terminal. Either the system wins and achieves total control by basically re-engineering us to fit its needs, or the entire thing collapses in a massive catastrophe. Okay, so we've got a techno-utopia, a psychedelic mystery, and a complete catastrophe. What on earth could these three possibly have in common? How could they be related? This is where it gets really interesting. This table, this is where it all clicks. Just look at the underlying structure. Each of them describes a mechanism driving all this change, whether it's accelerating returns or a system ratchet.
Each of them points to a final endpoint, and each one predicts a radical, total transformation of the human fate.
So let's really break down what they have in common. First, all three see their outcome as totally inevitable. It's a process that's already in motion. Second, this process speeds up exponentially as it gets closer to the end. And third, this endpoint isn't just a faster, shinier version of today. It's a complete and total break from all of human history.
And here's the most important part, the one that really gets you. In every single one of these versions, the human being as we currently understand it, it ceases to exist. It gets merged or dissolved or eliminated. And it's all driven by a process that's so big, so powerful, that nobody is steering the ship. McKenna probably put it best here, but this is the fundamental idea all three of these thinkers would actually agree on. It doesn't matter if you call it evolution, or a cosmic attractor, or just the system. The process is running on its own.
And this brings us to the crucial insight, the real takeaway here. These three thinkers aren't actually disagreeing on the shape of what's coming. They all describe the same fundamental thing, an accelerating, inevitable process that dissolves the individual human. The only thing they disagree on is the feeling. Is this shape a heaven to be welcomed, a mystery to be contemplated, or a hell to be fought? Which leaves us with this final, lingering question, doesn't it? Were these three people all seeing the exact same thing, just looking out of three different windows? Or is it something else? Is it possible that whenever we humans try to tell stories about our own end, all our stories just inevitably start to sound the same?